Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Arzu Agassi-Javadi. I work with Plug and Play Tech Center, where we focus on corporate innovation and ventures. And right now, we're on the lookout for looking for early stage startups focusing in brand, retail, and e-commerce that can benefit our Fortune 500 partners to get to the next level and change the game in e-commerce for 2023. I'll go ahead and have Josh Snow introduce himself.
Awesome. Thanks, Arzu. My name is Josh Snow. I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm an investor. I'm also on a TV show by the name of Going Public at goingpublic.com, which is a first show of its type that allows viewers who are watching throughout the season to invest in the companies that are actually on the show. And the partnership with NASDAQ for the ability to take those companies then public. So I'm also known as the founder and CEO of Snow Oral Care, which we're famous for our teeth whitening products, our award-winning teeth whitening products. We have millions of fans. I bootstrapped that business to $100 million, and it continues to grow, and we're in everywhere from Neiman Marcus to Walgreens, CVS, Best Buy, Bed Bath, and the list continues to grow. And in January of this year, I launched a brand called Anala, which is a black female-owned hair care line with my partner Lala Anthony, which is focused on the rice water ingredient and its benefits to hair and skin. And so we have a line of products. We've already won a couple awards with that line, and so that's another line in our e-commerce thing. And then the last thing worth mentioning is I'm also a co-founder of Powerhouse, which is a leading community and mastermind for e-commerce founders all around the world. So 99% of our education is available online for free from myself, my partner, and all of our coaches and teachers, dozens and thousands of hours of content to teach e-commerce founders all around the world on how to grow their business. So yeah, I stay busy, I guess.
Well, this is exciting to hear, especially to see someone who's gone from launching businesses and now giving back to teach others how to start their own e-commerce ventures. So let's just jump right into it. Can you walk us through how you've been able to make it snow at Snow with key marketing strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the beginning, I realized an opportunity to build a brand that bridged the gap that I saw in the marketplace, where there could be better for you products in the oral care category that were perhaps more efficacious, had more ingredient transparency, had ingredient innovation, packaging innovation. So I saw a lot of opportunity in oral care, and it's obviously a very, very competitive category. But at the time when I was starting Snow, influencer marketing was really becoming what it is today. But the opportunity to use that to get in front of as many people as possible. Like example, I'm holding a can of liquid death water. It's canned water. It actually is canned water, and they recently raised at a $700 million valuation. And there are multiple examples of that in very large commoditized spaces. And so I wanted to build a brand that was different and stood for something different from the beginning with Snow. And teeth whitening was an opportunity to get in front of the potential customers and something that they were looking for, from a social media perspective. If someone's on Instagram posting selfies, if they're on Zoom looking at their face, and the teeth whitening category, our business doubled and doubled again post-pandemic as we pivoted our business to lean into what we've always been, which was an at-home professional results line of products that people didn't have to leave their house to get those results. So that was the idea in the very beginning. I started with the first product. We now have sold close to 2 million units of our Hero system, which is our at-home teeth whitening system. We now have multiple variations, colors of them. We have an Elvis Presley wireless one. We have a black wireless edition that's only available in Best Buy. So the brand has, and we have toothpaste, mouthwash, floss. We now have a kids care line called Frost. So the brand has grown from one single product into a brand that now is available in over 10,000 retail doors, and we have millions of followers online. So, but we feel we're still scratching the surface. A lot of people have teeth, and so we feel like we want to continue to create products that challenge the status quo of what is the number one retail CPG space.
You bring up challenging the status quo and scratching the surface, especially with marketing. So what do you think about everyone's topic right now, Web3? How do you think that we can leverage that in the future of e-commerce?
Well, you and I were talking backstage, and you're really the expert on this, so I'm going to turn it on you right here because I'm curious to hear what you think. I've been looking at it, and I've dibbled and dabbled and had conversations, but I realized that e-commerce is only going to continue to grow. What happened through the pandemic when people moved on to Instacart and online grocery shopping, and the convenience factor is just so strong that it's very difficult. Some people will peel that back, but we can see that post-pandemic e-commerce will continue to grow. It's just that the mechanics that an e-commerce business could use in 2016 to run Facebook ads for maybe not a best-in-class product, but they were better at media buying, that would allow that brand to succeed. And I think that now brands that have great products and want to continue to grow should look at Web 3.0 and its application to e-commerce, because ultimately e-commerce is commoditizing in the sense that you have to have an edge beyond just free shipping on your website and all of those things. So I'm actually continually curious, and even our conversations backstage. So what are your thoughts, thinking about my business of Snow, and kind of how Web 3.0, could apply to us and I guess to other e-commerce founders out there?
Well, for us, when we're looking into e-commerce or brand, retailer, media type of startups that have an impact here, we're looking into like what I call the 3T approach in terms of traceability, transparency, and at the end of the day, making transactions happen. And that's where the beauty of the blockchain comes into play. Like you said, with your products, there's a lot of shipping that takes into play.
Right.
So with traceability, when someone clicks buy, makes that transaction happen, traceability, you're able to see where is my product? Where is it really coming from that warehouse? Am I going to get it before that hot date that I have on a Friday to have the whitest teeth I need, right? And then at the end of the day, with transparency, you have the aspect of who's involved in the buying and the selling of the goods. So that's where you build the strong relationships between the businesses and the customers. So you understand their trends on what they're buying and also find new ways to connect with them through the blockchain. And lastly, transactions. Through the blockchain tech nowadays, you're able to make quick transactions. You don't have to wait for payment processing, wait for your credit card to get approved. If you have that type of crypto right then and there, able to make the transaction, you get it right shipped to your cart then and there too.
That's interesting. I mean, when I look at some of the e-commerce breakout brands, and the emergence and continual growth of the Web 3.0, even as an interest, that being able to have that as a business, I see the appeal because you have a whole nother set of customers that you can access. And I do feel, it's like not having, not accepting credit cards at all on your website, right? Or just accepting paper checks or money orders. You're going to limit so many people. And so I would say, that makes a lot of sense. And the traceability is interesting because as businesses, e-commerce businesses focus on omni-channel, how do you track all of that? And how do you, who's responsible for that? And how do you monetize the trackability of that? And I would say that, with the looming recession and all of the discussions, businesses are going to focus so much more on what they have and really diving into there. And I just feel like Web 3.0, and this is a question for you, is how do we, I guess, as a community, make Web 3.0 and e-commerce play together? How is it, is it through apps? Is it through, what do you foresee how to increase the adoption rate of Web 3.0, where it's actually functional for e-commerce brands. What does that look like?
Well, right now, like you mentioned, we're definitely in a recession. So now is the time to take a step back and learn what this Web3 thing, this whole Web3 machine is. So it's the opportunity to, instead of thinking of it as a bear market, a builder market.
Yeah.
So this is the time where everyone's just figuring out there's no right answer. So this is the time for us, like you mentioned, to be a community, get together, learn all the mechanics, how it basically helps your respective e-commerce space grow. And then at the same time, all these big brands are like trying to figure it out too.
Right.
But they don't have time to actually go and Google it up, like what is blockchain, what is Ethereum, they don't have time. They're like, I want to know, find me someone that can just give me a master class on it.
Right.
So right now is a time for anyone who's very curious, take advantage of the first mover aspect. Learn as much as you can. Go out to those big brands and be their professor on this. If you take that initiative, brands will be like, "Wow, you're helping me understand how I can get to the next level and get that competitive edge." And from now, you can start building those relationships, and then those brands can say, "I trust Josh Snow going forward. No one else." And then once
Right.
one big brand, one big CPG makes that partnership with you, all will follow.
Right. Yeah, there definitely is first mover. I think there's like a herd mentality, I think, too, or bandwagon mentality, I guess, but maybe more of a herd mentality. It's like, wait until enough e-commerce people do it, and then I'll take action on it. And so I do think that, if anything, it's worth researching, spend the weekend researching Web 3.0 and all of the applications in e-commerce today, and what does it look like for your store to be able to play in that world and to be able to put that skin on, because that should be every business. I believe every business should have one main fear, which is to lose relevance. And as soon as you lose relevance, even companies like General Electric can go out of business. And so chasing relevance is what should keep a lot of growing brands up at night. And but then you hear this thing, shiny object syndrome. What should I focus on? Should I focus on Google ads? Should I focus on Facebook ads? Oh, I shouldn't go there. Should I do influencers? And there's all of this, but Web 3.0, I see it as, one, if you're early on in your business or you're starting a business, it might be worth spending a month before you jump into your business just to go and take a look and just kind of see what is available in your business. And you go, well, you know what? There's no one doing this in the Web3. It's selling dog food, but the way we're doing it and how we're tapping that audience is unique. It's just like, I wouldn't mind being the toothpaste for esports. A lot of people, play video games, and that's a very strong passion. And if I had the biggest market share in esports fans for toothpaste, I believe that would be a very valuable company. And so that's a similar opportunity is what I'm hearing kind of as I'm thinking about it, is like there's an opportunity for people to research and figure out what is your quote unquote easy in, the low hanging fruit if you have an existing business. And then I guess for the new businesses, what are you seeing from like an investor lens, projects that are getting funded recently, or projects you feel like are going to kind of pull more of the funding in the future? Where do you see that headed?
Well, right now in terms of investments, with Web3 specifically, when startups come and say, oh, we have a Web3 technology, that kind of just gives us like a flag. Like, you don't have to force it. Don't say it. We want to see it in the back end, that the beauty of it comes to life, and that comes out in terms of revenue or increased customers. So we see Web3 as the engine to help the big corporate brands that we partner with to get to the next level.
Got it.
Another aspect is, like I said, don't force it. Like if you're like with Josh Snow, with your teeth whitening company,
Right.
like if you want to get into esports with like Grand Theft Auto and have all
Sure.
the drivers have the widest teeth, that's a natural transition, and investors will take that seriously.
Right.
But don't just say, I'm going to make NFT for teeth. We're going to be like,
Right.
so what? What is the ROI there at the end of the day?
That's right. None. We tossed it around and we were like, this makes zero sense. We even thought of doing it we're like, let's just do it for charity, right? Like, even if because I was like, remove the money aspect, let's just do that. And then I go, well, we're going to spend a few months. And then what was funny is that by the time a lot of people probably got around to doing it, now they realize, to your point, what's the functionality of doing that? What's the rationale of applying? That's why I think doing the research, like, no one's going to know, like, you and I won't know their business as well as they should know their business. And it's really, I think, if anything, you and I are both in alignment on sharing and showcasing that from an e-commerce founder perspective, that it's something that you should be researching, looking into, and thinking about how could you build a competitive edge in your business, even if it's from an awareness perspective, or even if it's from a hiring perspective, or there are so many, as I think through this, there are so many areas, but to your point, if you really want to do it right. And maybe you only do one thing, maybe it's not, you try to do everything and infuse it.
And another aspect is like, although we focus on Web3, we also focus on how to just help our big industry brands get to the next level in terms of an investment. And so just take a step back with e-commerce, the goal at the end of the day is for businesses to connect with their customers. How can you fast track that experience? How can you make sure it's seamless? And at the end of the day, have that customer retention. And so can you share, actually let's have this go back to you. Can you share advice to someone who's about to go into e-commerce?
Yes.
What are the best tips to think about now that we're going in a post-pandemic world?
Well, the music stops really fast, right? Greed is powerful, and I think that it's hard for people to hear that the good times are going to get a little bit harder, because nobody wants to be the party pooper at the party. So, it's difficult, but I think that from an e-commerce perspective, going into e-commerce, people are buying more stuff online. It's very difficult to go away from buying something online. The reason why you might do that, and the reason why stocks like Home Depot and Lowe's do well, is because, if you have a pipe break and you need to fix it this weekend because you have family coming over, you don't have time for even Amazon at this point. And it's such a specific part that, you go into Home Depot and Lowe's to do it. But if you could get that same part within 1 hour for the exact same price and not leave your house, most people would say yes nowadays. So that's where e-commerce is moving, is that people have gotten used to, buy online, pick up in store. A lot of these things that are new post-pandemic, online grocery shopping, I think is a huge thing, because 10 years ago, in order for you to get retail shelf space, you have to do a lot. Nowadays, Amazon and Instacart, they both have ads platforms. And if you are able to get even in one store where you can be on those platforms, you now can run ads while people are buying diapers and toilet paper and food on Instacart. You can run an ad, for your skincare product right inside of there. And what's the difference of shelf space? Shelf space to me is what someone's seeing as a part of their buying behavior for their weekly shopping, trip. And so if they're using Instacart and they're spending $200, and that to me is the same shelf space. Amazon, it's the same shelf space. So digital shelf space, I think, is something that is really interesting, because offline is coming more and more online, even though there's a Ripple right now and Shopify, and there's all kinds of stuff going on right now. But I do believe that I don't want to have to go to more stores. I don't imagine a day where I say, I just wish there were little boutiques for everything that I need, and I can go to 19 stores every Saturday and just get everything I need. I want it to my house. The problem is, it's gotten expensive. And so what's going to happen is that brands that are able to have a cost advantage, a vertical advantage, the manufacturing, things like this, where you can, people are looking for value. And it's not just lower price, but people do become a lot more value seeking and a lot more ruthless around their calculations of what the value is. So impulse purchases, things that are gimmicky, things that are trendy, you got to be very, very careful. And then I would say the things that do the best in recessions, when I was reading a report from 2008, or from the 2008 recession, was brands companies that help people save money or make money. And the brands that did the best did both. So, Uber, Airbnb, you can save money on a hotel, when they launched, right? And then you can make money by putting it on Turo. All these brands that did well will continue to do well. So I think in e-commerce, you got to think about, can I provide an extremely good value to the customer and stand in court that it's truly unique and it's powerful? What is that one thing? It can be your branding. It can be Liquid Death. But what's that one thing that's powerful? And then how are you conveying the value to the customer so that they don't X you out from their expense sheet because you're an indulgence? Or even if you're an indulgence, like ice cream, I never feel bad about, I may feel bad like I should have eaten that, but in my head I'm like, that was delicious, right? While I'm eating it, I don't feel bad. So an indulgence can feel good when it's justified and when it's a good value. And so that is important I would say for the foreseeable future, is don't try to be the best thing in the world. Like we had a time in the last 10 years where there were the Keurig of everything, the juice one, all these things that ultimately weren't really useful. If you have a way for someone to save 50% on their fertilizer every single month in their house, and it works better, and you can put on subscription, and you just get it to them fast, that business is going to boom, in this business cycle, is my belief, versus we have the best, formula fertilizer, and it's super expensive, and it's, very hard to get. You do have to think of that. And the last piece I'll say is, think of more channels than just online. You have to think about, if you're selling products, right, where are your customers at? And that means that you have to think about not just offline, but think about all of the other channels where people are at. Walmart.com, you can list a product right there in 5 minutes. And so it's not just about your website anymore, because I think people kind of go back to what they're comfortable and safe with, which is why we're going to see Amazon and Walmart, Target, a lot of these kind of incumbent players that have caught up on e-commerce from a consumer side. They're going to benefit a lot from the next few years, because the customer doesn't feel as comfortable having 25 different subscriptions to unknown brands that they're not really familiar with. The loyalty is not as strong there. So building loyalty, using things like Web 3.0, using your product, making sure that it really stands out, that's where I would lean into versus kind of what's been popular, I would say, in the last 10 years.
It's interesting you say that. We were just going through our trends report on brand, retail, and e-commerce aspects, and hyper-personalization was one of the biggest trends we found.
Wow.
In that nowadays, you can, with Shopify, you just go say, click this, marketplace pops up. What's the so what factor? So with this hyper-personalization aspect, marketplaces now need to, or brands essentially need to know who is going on their website and be able to customize that experience with a small win, whether it's hi Josh, welcome back, or hey, we noticed you bought this sweater last year, we brought a different color. Giving these types of micro communications will build long-term relationships with the customers.
Yeah.
And at the other aspect you brought up was around, no one wants to, people now think about the trip to the mall, because gas prices have went up, but they're is it really worth me going to Nordstrom or Macy's to try that outfit on? So a lot of startups have come with this aspect of, how can I try on clothing up? How can I have that try-on experience online? So there's all these new simulation tools coming out where people can give it a shot, where they give their measurements and see if a prospective outfit does fit and make decisions that way. And then the system will then start learning about what they like to buy, what their fit is, what their body type, what their style is, and then start giving recommendations and form fitting it on them. And they're like, oh, this looks good on me, I'll just buy it now instead of have to go to the store and try it on.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, it's what's the benefit? When I go as a customer to buy from Amazon, I'm going to get 1 hour shipping, guaranteed refunds, all of these things. And as an e-commerce brand, you go, how do I compete with that? And if you have a unique experience, it's almost like I would rather, to your point, I'd rather recommend someone spend a little more time, a little bit of money on some type of augmented reality piece, especially in fashion, to one, it's going to cut your returns in half. It's going to already give you an advantage. And I think that people need a reason. If they're going to go shop on your website, it could have 3 pages. That's fine. It doesn't have to have 5 million pages. But those 3 pages have to do something for the customer, and they have to be an experience. And it can only be something very simple. But we have seen in our test everything from sampling, what you just said, to sampling, anything with AR, the conversion rates on people buying skyrocket, the return rates drop, and then to your point, the data that you're also acquiring on that customer, because you want to be in the reorder business. You always want to be in the reorder business, but you want to be in the reorder business as soon as possible. And it's, if you can have a couple of those mechanisms you're talking about, specific to, if you're selling cowboy hats and you have a AR that can show them with their measurements, with the cowboy hat, and that's something that they can't get on Amazon or they can't get somewhere else, then that's how you build that loyal fan base you're talking about.
Another aspect is it enables that impulsive delight factor. So say you go buy your clothes, you have a specific style, like for girls, like you love wearing shift dresses. So then you give the e-commerce site your dimensions. They actually say, we notice you buy all these shift dresses, but we actually think you might look good in this type of a dress. And then it simulates, you're like, oh, aha, now I know this style also goes well with me. I'll make these type of transactions, which you would never have discovered if you had gone to the mall itself. Because when you go there, you're very narrow, like, I'm going to get this item and walk out ideally. Unless if you're at Target where you see that like exciting like that $1 section, you're like, this looks exciting, and then you're going to go there for a $10 purchase and it ended up being $100, and that wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah. So that's some small wins these big brands can do on building their e-commerce sites. So you gave some good advice on how to go about building out e-commerce. What are some misconceptions folks should be aware of as lessons learned so that they don't go through it themselves?
Oh, well, there are a lot, but I'll share some of the ones that are very, very relevant today. Misconceptions. Well, supply chain can be complex, and so the more that you can control your supply chain, the stronger you're going to be, even at the smaller size. I mean, even if that's partnering with the manufacturer, find the best manufacturer that specializes in what you're trying to do, take them a dinner, sell them on the vision, see if they're interested, and see if you can get front of line manufacturing, some advantage where you have kind of from the get-go a built-in advantage. So the misconceptions are D2C is more profitable than selling to retail, selling all these other places. It is if you pay $0 for advertising. It isn't if you have an operation to run that and agencies, and there's a lot more to that. And really the biggest misconception is that direct-to-consumer in e-commerce is a launch strategy, and you really have to think omni-channel from Web 3.0 to the local salon, to the local convenience store, to the local doctor, depending on what you're selling. That really is how the modern shopper shops today. And I think that the misconception that was the biggest was, instead of selling your product to a big retailer that's going to take 50% off the top, or 40% or 30%, oh no, sell it on your website and you're going to get 100% of that money. Well, who's going to service the customer? Who's going, customer service, customer experience? You got to handle returns, refunds. There's a whole mechanism that goes beyond just creating great products and marketing and building a great brand. You now have to do everything from fulfillment, et cetera. And we've done that. We've shipped millions of units from our own, warehouse all over the world. But I think that was a misconception, was that direct-to-consumer is just naturally that much more profitable, that it just already gives you an advantage. It's like, Miracle Grow is not doing stuff on Amazon and online, so I'm going to do that, and that's going to automatically make me successful. That's really not the case. You really have to have, something. You got to have one thing, and maybe Web 3.0 plus e-commerce could be your thing, because they have to meet I think eventually there has to be applications to it eventually, whether it be from payment processing to traceability, to even communicating and connecting to fans, to acquiring data in order to market and build better products. So I know that that's going to happen, and so you got to have an edge, and that's the misconception, is that you simply have to have a cheaper priced product. That's not gonna. You simply have to have, well, it's just better. Theirs is like, shorter, mine's taller. That's not good enough. Mine has a subscription program. That's not good enough. So you really have to say, this is good enough for what reason? Like I'll bring up another company, a couple friends of mine built, it's coffee concentrate. And I hadn't talked to them in a while, and they built this business to a crazy amount. And it's coffee concentrate, but it's great value. You can essentially get 25 Starbucks out of this concentrate, and that is phenomenal, because when we think about when people are looking for value, you've got to propose something like that in order to peel people away from Starbucks, because you're not going to peel them away anymore by charging them $20 for their matcha latte because it's got probiotics in it. You're probably going to get them a lot better in the other way. And I think that's a big misconception. Nothing's as easy as you think it is, but e-commerce particularly, it is a channel to talk to your customers. It is not everything. Your brand is what needs to be focused on and where it lives, and it can have different identities and how it communicates to customers, especially when you sell something like toothpaste, where technically anybody could buy our product. So how do we communicate to these customers, and how do we do it in a way where we don't have a multi-billion-dollar marketing budget? And that's why these emerging technologies are so important.
Well, that being said, before we go on our coffee concentrate break and wrap up today's session, what's one thing you're most excited about in e-commerce in 2023 for folks to also have their eyes on radar for?
Well, I would say the barrier to entry to create an e-commerce business has never been lower, which means that really anybody has a chance to create something great. And I think that good businesses are built, this is a quote, I forget from whom, maybe it's Warren Buffett. Good businesses are built in bull economies, and great companies are built in bear economies. And so I really think that focusing on the profitable pillars of your business and making sure that every activity that you're doing, you as the founder or founding team member, you as an employee of the founding team, it's important that every hour that you're spending is leading you that much closer to a profitable pillar, whatever that looks like for your business. Because there's always a market for profitable businesses. There's always a market to raise money for profitable businesses. So the more you make that your focus, no matter what you're working on, the easier it is, I think, to talk to more people. And that's what, we found that time and time again, and across my businesses, the businesses that are more profitable just open up about 90% more doors.
Agreed. And one last thing I would chime in is, at the end of the day, when you're creating your e-commerce business, try to be as authentic as possible and prioritize customer experience. And if you're going to use the magic word of Web3, make sure it's under the hood and it's seamless, and no one has to basically get scared about Web3 going forward.
And where can people listening, including, obviously I already got the website on my phone, I'm going to be doing my research, but where can everyone out there listening learn more about, obviously, what you do and what you guys are working on, and then are there any places that maybe they should be subscribed to or looking for, like Web 3.0, any of your favorites?
I hate to say this, but Twitter is also a great go-to. Just follow all the big Twitter, anyone that follows around Coinbase, all the big exchanges, I would suggest that. And then Plug and Play as well. We do a lot of workshops around Web3, emphasizing how startups can transition into it and benefit the enterprise corporate world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me. I'm jazzed up. I'm excited to talk to my team how we can apply this, and also to speak to the e-commerce community in general, to kind of continue to see how those two overlap. So that's exciting. And I'm Josh Snow, at Josh Snow on Instagram. Anything Snow related, at Snow on Instagram, and you can kind of peruse from there. I've got Powerhouse and all of that in my Instagram bio.
Yeah, with that being said, if anyone has any questions or comments to learn more about Web3, feel free to reach out to me at arzu@pnptc.com. All right, well, we can go ahead and wrap
Awesome.
up.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was fun.